Close your eyes and imagine diving beneath the calm surface of the ocean. The water around you is cool and weightless, carrying the gentle rhythm of waves above. But below, far beneath the sunlight, the seafloor stretches across vast distances, revealing a hidden world that has been shaped over millions of years. You sense the quiet pulse of motion, the subtle shifting of plates, and the gentle rise and fall of oceanic ridges. Even in darkness, the earth continues to move, silently sculpting the undersea landscapes. Picture the mid-ocean ridges, where tectonic plates slowly pull apart. Here, molten rock rises from deep within the mantle, cooling into new crust. You feel the delicate balance of creation, a patient layering of material that expands the ocean floor bit by bit, millimeter by millimeter. This process is imperceptible in your daily life, yet over eons, it stretches thousands of miles, shaping the hidden skeleton of the oceans. You drift along this ridge, weightless and aware, sensing that even in apparent stillness, the earth is quietly alive. Imagine the tiny tremors that ripple along these underwater boundaries. Micro-earthquakes hum beneath the water, subtle vibrations that shift sediment and rock. You feel them as gentle pulses through the ocean's body, echoes of the slow, deliberate movements of the crust. Each tremor is a whisper from the planet, a small adjustment in a system that operates on timescales far beyond human perception. Even in their subtlety, these shifts carry the story of creation, shaping the ocean floor with care and rhythm. Now, consider the deep trenches, where one plate slides beneath another in a process called subduction. These trenches are the deepest places on Earth, dark and silent, stretching for thousands of miles beneath the waves. You imagine descending into these chasms, aware of the immense pressure and the slow grinding of rock as plates converge. This motion is patient and inexorable, compressing material, guiding magma upward, and influencing the formation of underwater mountains and volcanic arcs. You sense the calm persistence of the planet at work, even in the most hidden and extreme places. Visualize hydrothermal vents, small openings in the seafloor where heated water escapes from beneath the crust. Rich in minerals, these vents sustain life in places too dark for sunlight. You float among glowing communities of tube worms and microscopic organisms, aware that even in extreme isolation, life adapts to the quiet rhythm of plate motion. The ocean floor is not just rock and pressure, it is a living, breathing space where creation continues in harmony with movement and force. Picture the spreading of oceanic plates as a gentle river of stone, carrying sediments and minerals outward from the ridge. Each new layer of crust is laid down carefully, cooled from molten rock into a solid foundation. You sense the patience in this process, the deliberate growth of new terrain that will, over millions of years, form islands, underwater mountains, and ridges. The planet's work is slow, deliberate, and deeply meditative, unfolding in a rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat you felt in Chapter 1. Now, imagine seamounts, isolated underwater mountains that rise from the ocean floor. These features are often volcanic, built gradually over time as magma escapes from cracks in the crust. You float beside them, feeling the quiet accumulation of material, layer upon layer, forming majestic structures in the hidden depths. Even in silence and darkness, the earth sculpts, slowly and patiently, creating features that mirror the slow growth of continental mountains above. Consider the ocean trenches as the planet's secret memory. Sediment and rock are slowly pulled downward, buried and recycled into the mantle. You sense that nothing is lost, only transformed. The crust carries echoes of past motion, past collisions and separations, preserving the story of Earth's constant movement. Even as new crust forms above, the older material continues its quiet journey. A meditation on persistence and transformation. Now, drift toward the abyssal plains, the broad, flat regions of the ocean floor. Here, sediments accumulate over millions of years, carrying tiny particles of life, minerals, and rock from distant continents. You imagine tracing the paths of these particles as they settle gently, recording the passage of rivers, winds, and ocean currents. The plains are not empty, they are archives of movement and time, quietly documenting the Earth's history in subtle layers. Imagine subduction zones giving rise to volcanic island chains. As one plate dives beneath another, magma rises and erupts at the surface, forming islands slowly over millions of years. You float above these nascent islands, aware of the patient orchestration beneath the waves. Creation is deliberate, unfolding with care, guided by forces both visible and invisible. Each eruption, each layer of lava, carries the story of the ocean floor and the subtle pulse of tectonic motion. Consider the ocean ridges as slow rivers of creation, stretching across the globe, connecting continents with unseen threads. Magma wells up, cools, and hardens, forming new crust in a continuous, meditative rhythm. You drift along these ridges, feeling the quiet persistence of motion, aware that this undersea world is constantly renewing itself, sculpting landscapes hidden from human eyes, yet profoundly shaping the life and climate above. Now, imagine the gentle undulations of abyssal hills, subtle rises on the ocean floor, formed over millions of years. You float above them, sensing the delicate patience of formation, the layering of sediments, and the slow cooling of crust beneath. These hills are like a soft heartbeat of the ocean, barely perceptible but deeply present, shaping currents, habitat, and the unseen contours of the planet. Visualize the plate boundaries beneath the Pacific Ocean, the ring of fire. Here, subduction zones create islands, trenches, and volcanoes. You imagine the rhythmic rise and fall of magma, the slow pushing and pulling of massive plates. Even in chaos, there is calm. The earth works with patience, never rushing, always persistent. You sense the quiet balance between destruction and creation, an eternal meditation beneath the waves. Now, consider the sediments that slowly drift across the seafloor, carried by currents, gravity, and tectonic tilts. Each grain of sand, each fragment of rock, is part of a long journey, a record of erosion, deposition, and the persistent motion of the earth. You drift alongside them, weightless and aware, sensing that even the smallest particles are guided by the patient rhythms of the ocean floor. Imagine submarine canyons carved by underwater landslides and currents. These features form slowly, sometimes abruptly, yet always in dialogue with the tectonic activity beneath. You float through these narrow valleys, aware of the constant interplay between the gentle flow of water and the patient shaping of rock. The ocean floor is alive in both silence and movement, a meditative landscape sculpted over unimaginable timescales. Picture the abyss where life thrives in unexpected ways. Bioluminescent organisms float in the dark, tiny pulses of light flickering across the blackness. They are part of the quiet rhythm of the deep, adapted to the slow transformations of their environment. You sense that life itself is attuned to tectonic patience, responding to mountains rising, trenches forming, and ocean floors shifting. The dance of rock and life is inseparable, a gentle meditation in motion. Now drift upward toward the continental shelves. These shallow regions bear the fingerprints of both tectonic motion and ocean currents. Sediments gather here, forming underwater plains, gentle slopes, and rises that will one day influence coastlines. You float among these features, feeling the deliberate, persistent shaping of the ocean floor, the silent pulse of the earth, extending even into waters shallow enough to touch the sun's warmth. Consider the ocean's hidden mountain chains, stretching for thousands of miles beneath the waves. They rise slowly, fold, and fracture with tectonic motion, and create habitats for marine life. You sense the patient rhythm in these formations, the interplay of pressure, motion, and time. Even unseen by human eyes, the earth sculpts with meditative care, creating landscapes that will persist for millions of years. Imagine drifting above a hydrothermal vent field once more. Life clings to the warmth and minerals, thriving in a world shaped by movement and heat beneath the crust. You feel the harmony of creation here, tectonic motion, ocean currents, and life itself working together in quiet balance. The ocean floor is alive, not in frantic motion, but in slow, deliberate, patient evolution, a reflection of the pulse you felt beneath continents and mountains above. And as you float through these hidden landscapes, sensing ridges, trenches, plains, and vents, you feel the continuity of the Earth's motion. Every rise and fall, every spreading ridge and subduction zone is part of a vast, patient meditation shaping the world above and below the waves. The ocean floor carries memory, movement, and quiet rhythm, inviting you to witness the hidden pulse of our living planet. Close your eyes and imagine standing in a vast valley. Beneath your feet, the earth is alive with motion, moving so slowly that you can hardly feel it. But over millions of years, these imperceptible movements accumulate, shaping landscapes in ways both profound and patient. Mountains rise where plates converge, folding rock upon rock, layer upon layer, until towering peaks stretch toward the sky. You feel the quiet persistence of these forces, as if the earth is breathing gently, sculpting its own form with infinite patience. Visualize two continental plates drifting toward one another. At first, their motion is almost unnoticed, subtle nudges that go largely unperceived. Yet, as time stretches into eons, pressure builds, rock bends, folds, and fractures beneath the immense weight. You float alongside these processes, aware that even the mightiest mountains were once hidden deep beneath the crust, formed slowly by forces far greater than yourself. Creation here is deliberate, meditative, and invisible to the human eye, yet unceasing. Imagine the Earth's crust behaving like thick, pliable clay, Under the immense pressure of colliding plates, it warps and folds. Layers that were once horizontal become bent, twisted, and stacked. Valleys sink and peaks rise, all in response to the patient push of the land beneath. You feel the gentle rhythm in these motions, the slow, deliberate unfolding of structures that take millions of years to reach their full height. Even in their grandeur, mountains carry the quiet patience of creation. Picture the Himalayas, their jagged peaks stretching toward the clouds. They did not appear suddenly. They were born from the slow convergence of the Indian and Eurasian plates. You sense the immense timescales at play, the folding, faulting, and uplift that continue today. Each millimeter of motion contributes to the vast form above, a testament to the enduring, meditative power of tectonic processes. The mountains themselves seem to breathe with time, rising imperceptibly, a monument to patience. Consider the pressure deep within the earth, beneath mountains. Rocks are compressed, transformed, and metamorphosed by heat and force. Granite, schist, and gneiss all bear the marks of these processes, recording the long story of collision and uplift. You drift among these rocks, sensing the quiet energy stored in each fold and fracture. Even the smallest movements are part of the Earth's rhythm, shaping the peaks and valleys with a gentle, steady hand. Now, imagine rivers cutting through these rising mountains. They flow slowly, carving valleys as uplift continues around them. The land responds to both internal motion and external erosion, a delicate dance between creation and transformation. You sense the interplay of forces, each one patient, deliberate, and necessary for the sculpting of the landscape. Mountains are not only born, they are continuously shaped by water, wind, and the passage of time. Picture a mountain range stretching across the horizon, its peaks dusted with snow. You imagine the countless micro-movements beneath your feet that brought it into being. Plates grind together, stress accumulates, and the earth responds with folds, fractures, and the slow rise of new peaks. Even as glaciers advance and retreat, slowly reshaping slopes, the mountains endure. A testament to the patient, ongoing rhythm of tectonic motion. Now, consider faults running through these ranges. Some are gentle, barely noticeable cracks. Others are dramatic, where the earth releases built-up stress in sudden tremors. You sense the balance maintained along these faults, the earth adjusting its form in response to pressure and motion. Each movement, whether subtle or abrupt, is part of a grand meditation on persistence, balance, and transformation. Imagine a mountain forming beneath your gaze, rising millimeter by millimeter over millions of years. You feel the patience inherent in this process, the slow, deliberate accumulation of energy, pressure, and material. Each layer of rock, each fold, each fracture tells a story of persistence, a history written in stone. You sense the calm rhythm of creation, a quiet meditation unfolding over time, scales that challenge human perception. Picture tectonic uplift, along convergent boundaries, pushing ancient seabeds high into the sky. Fossils once buried in sand and silt are lifted, revealing the history of life preserved in stone. You drift through these elevated landscapes, aware of the patient orchestration beneath your feet. Mountains are not only structures of rock, they are archives of time, preserving evidence of the Earth's long and deliberate motion. Consider the role of erosion, sculpting mountains even as they rise. Wind, rain, ice, and gravity wear away at peaks, balancing uplift with gradual removal. Valleys deepen, slopes soften, and rivers carve paths that mirror the slow dance of tectonic motion beneath. You sense the harmony in these processes, an elegant balance between creation and transformation, where every change occurs in a meditative rhythm. Imagine standing on a mountainside, feeling the cool air and the subtle vibration beneath your feet. The rocks carry memory, recording millions of years of uplift, folding, and collision. You sense the quiet pulse of the earth, a rhythm so slow that it seems eternal. Even as the mountain continues to rise, the forces that shape it operate in silence, weaving an intricate story across time and space. Now, picture glacial ice slowly moving down the slopes, reshaping valleys and cliffs. The ice does not hurry. It flows patiently, carving grooves and smoothing rock. You drift alongside it, aware that both tectonic motion and erosion operate on timescales far longer than a human lifetime. The mountains are alive in slow motion, rising, bending, and being sculpted by forces that are patient, deliberate, and meditative. Consider ancient metamorphic rocks hidden deep within the core of a range. These rocks were once buried, subjected to intense heat and pressure, and transformed over eons. You sense the immense patience in their formation, the slow folding and compression that create new textures, minerals, and structures. Each stone is a meditation on time, recording the relentless persistence of tectonic forces in a quiet, enduring form. Picture volcanic mountains forming in conjunction with tectonic uplift. Magma rises through cracks in the crust, building peaks slowly over time. You float near the summit, feeling the subtle heat beneath your feet, sensing that even the fire of creation is measured, deliberate, and in harmony with the patient rise of surrounding ranges. Every eruption is part of a larger rhythm, shaping landscapes with gentle persistence. Now, imagine the vast sweep of a mountain range across a continent. Peaks rise, valleys sink, and rivers meander through folds and ridges. You drift above it, all aware that this grandeur is the product of countless imperceptible movements, patiently orchestrated by the Earth's tectonic heartbeat. The mountains rise slowly, silently, and yet their impact is profound, influencing climate, ecosystems, and the very flow of life. Consider the deep roots of these mountains, extending far beneath the surface. What you see above is only a fraction of their mass. You sense the hidden weight, the buried strength that stabilizes the peaks above. Even as erosion wears away the surface, the roots persist, a quiet testament to the enduring, patient power of the planet's internal motions. Imagine standing at the edge of a precipice, looking across a valley carved by millennia of uplift and erosion. You feel a profound sense of time, of continuity, and of patience. The mountains whisper their story in folds, faults, and peaks, a slow meditation on the forces that shape our world. You float above them, connected to the quiet pulse of the earth, aware of the rhythm that guides both creation and transformation. And as you rise above these patient peaks, drifting toward higher altitudes and distant horizons, you sense that the mountain's story is far from complete. The earth continues to move, to fold, to uplift, and to erode, carrying forward a meditation. In stone, a rhythm that will persist for millions of years. The quiet artistry of tectonic motion is ongoing, an eternal dance that you are privileged to witness. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a quiet slope, the mountains behind you rising like patient sentinels. Beneath the surface, hidden from your sight, the earth is speaking. It communicates through its faults, through small shifts and subtle movements that ripple across continents. These fractures are the language of the planet, quiet yet profound, recording the history of collisions, separations, and pressures that have accumulated over millions of years. You feel attuned to this language, listening with your imagination to the slow, rhythmic pulse beneath your feet. Picture a fault line stretching across the landscape. At first glance, it seems like a simple crack in the earth, a divide in stone. But as you drift closer, you sense the accumulated energy, the pressure that has been building silently over eons. The rocks on either side of the fault hold stories of ancient motion, of layers bent, broken, and shifted by forces far greater than yourself. You imagine these movements as whispered conversations, subtle adjustments that maintain balance across a restless crust. Visualize micro-earthquakes occurring along this fault. They are tiny tremors, barely perceptible, yet essential for the Earth's rhythm. Each small release of energy is part of a delicate conversation, a meditation of pressure and relief that prevents catastrophic disruption. You feel these movements as gentle pulses, almost like the breaths of the planet, reminding you that the earth is alive, in motion, always speaking in a calm, deliberate rhythm. Now, imagine standing on the edge of a deep canyon formed by fault motion. The layers of rock exposed along the walls are like pages in a diary, each fold and fracture a note in the earth's ongoing dialogue. You drift along these walls, tracing the history of uplift and displacement, feeling the patient care with which the planet shapes its surface. Even the most dramatic fractures are not abrupt, but the culmination of slow, meditative processes. Consider transform faults, where plates slide past one another. Friction builds, energy accumulates, and the earth adjusts incrementally. You sense the subtle motion, the almost imperceptible shifts that ripple across the landscape. Each tremor carries information, how the crust is responding, where tension has been released, and how the earth maintains balance. You float through this motion, aware that every movement is part of a language of persistence, patience, and quiet communication. Imagine the San Andreas Fault, stretching for hundreds of miles across California. It is not merely a crack in the earth. It is a living, breathing line of conversation. The land on either side drifts slowly, measured in centimeters per year, and yet the cumulative effect over centuries is profound. Mountains are nudged, valleys formed, rivers shifted. You sense the patient narrative, a story written in stone and subtle motion, unfolding imperceptibly for those who listen carefully. Visualize the energy stored in the Earth's crust along faults. Tension accumulates silently, like a string pulled taut. Over time, the stress must be released, and the Earth responds with adjustments that may be gentle or sudden. You imagine these moments as punctuation in the planet's language, small tremors and occasional quakes that keep the system in balance. Even in apparent stillness, the earth speaks, and every movement is a syllable in its quiet story. Now, consider normal faults, where one block of rock drops relative to another. You float above a valley formed this way, feeling the slow descent of land over millions of years. The Earth's language here is subtle, almost meditative, as gravity and motion collaborate to create gentle slopes and deep depressions. You sense that each fault has its own tone, its own rhythm, and its own story to tell. Picture reverse faults, where rocks are pushed together and one side is thrust upward. You drift along a rising ridge, aware of the immense patience required to lift stone over millions of years. The energy that shapes these features is stored, released, and recorded in layers of rock, creating a living dialogue that endures across time. You feel connected to this language, understanding that the Earth's patience is as vital as its motion. Imagine the folding and bending that occurs along complex fault systems. Rocks are warped into waves, curves, and folds, responding to pressures far below the surface. You drift through these folds, sensing the hidden dialogue between pressure and response. The language of faults is not loud. It is quiet, deliberate, and measured, teaching patience, resilience, and balance in every line of stone. Consider the interplay between erosion and faults. Rivers cut through valleys, glaciers carve mountain slopes, and yet the underlying fractures remain. You sense the dialogue between surface processes and tectonic motion, a meditation in layers and shifts. Each adjustment, whether from water, ice, or pressure, adds nuance to the Earth's story. You float through these interactions, attuned to the language of the planet as it continues its patient, rhythmic dance. Visualize the aftermath of a fault adjustment. When land shifts suddenly in a small quake, you feel the subtle redistribution of energy, the way the Earth settles into a new balance. These events are punctuation in the ongoing conversation, gentle reminders of the patient, deliberate motion that underlies the seeming stillness of the landscape. You sense that even in disruption there is harmony, a rhythm of give and take that sustains the planet's enduring pulse. Now, imagine the hidden faults beneath cities, plains, and forests. They are often invisible, yet they shape the surface subtly over millennia. You drift through these landscapes, aware that beneath familiar ground lies a hidden dialogue, a story recorded in shifts, bends, and tremors. The Earth's language is everywhere, connecting distant mountains, deep valleys, and sprawling plains through its quiet, meditative script. Picture the formation of fault block mountains, where large blocks of crust move along fault lines. Valleys sink and ridges rise, sculpted by the interplay of pressure, gravity, and patience. You float among these formations, sensing the deliberate choreography that shapes the landscape. Each motion, however slow, contributes to the grand rhythm of the Earth, a language that whispers across eons. Imagine the deep time perspective of faults. Millennia pass, and yet the language continues, layer upon layer, fold upon fold. You sense that what may seem sudden to human eyes is part of a continuous, deliberate meditation. The Earth is patient, and its movements are measured, teaching a quiet lesson. Even the most powerful forces operate slowly, deliberately, and harmoniously over vast timescales. Consider strike-slip faults, where blocks move horizontally past one another. You drift along such a line, feeling the subtle lateral shifts that reshape landscapes incrementally. The language here is different from vertical faults, yet equally profound. A gentle rhythm of motion and adaptation that reflects the diversity of the planet's dialogue. You sense that every fault type contributes to a grand, cohesive story. Visualize a fault network beneath a mountain range. Each fracture, each minor displacement, is a note in a larger symphony of movement. You float above the terrain, attuned to these motions, aware of the persistent, gentle choreography that shapes peaks, valleys, and rivers. The earth speaks through this network, and every adjustment is a word in a patient, ongoing conversation down. Imagine the rock layers themselves responding to fault motion. They bend, fold, and fracture like paper in slow motion, recording each adjustment. You sense the history embedded in these layers, the accumulation of time, energy, and pressure. The Earth's language is written in stone, a meditation in rock that unfolds slowly, inviting careful attention, reflection, and awe. Picture the gentle tension along an entire plate boundary stretching across hundreds of miles. You float along this boundary, sensing the subtle energy stored and the small movements that release it. Every adjustment is part of a calm, deliberate rhythm, a meditation that has continued for eons and will continue long after the present moment. The Earth's language is patient, continuous, and enduring, and as you drift above valleys, ridges, and mountains shaped by these faults, you sense that the story of the earth is both dynamic and meditative. Every crack, every fold, every tremor contributes to the ongoing dialogue. You feel the patient pulse, the rhythm of energy accumulation and release, a language spoken silently through stone, pressure, and motion, teaching that even in seeming stillness, there is a quiet, enduring conversation. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a plain, the ground beneath you solid and seemingly calm, but deep within, far below the surface, rock is not still. Magma gathers in chambers, heated by the planet's inner energy, slowly moving, pressing, and shaping its path. This molten rock is the Earth's secret fire, a patient force that has existed for millions of years, waiting quietly for its chance to emerge and create. You sense its presence, not in sight, but in the subtle vibration of the ground, in the knowledge that beneath your feet, the planet is alive and dynamic. Picture a magma chamber, a hidden reservoir beneath a volcano. The rock here is not solid, yet not fully liquid. It flows slowly, creeping through cracks and fractures, building pressure over eons. You feel the patience in this process, the way heat, pressure, and time collaborate to sculpt the earth from within. Even before an eruption, there is creation, layers of rock forming, gases gathering, the planet preparing for its slow, deliberate expression. Visualize the formation of a stratovolcano. Layers of lava and ash accumulate over countless eruptions, each one slow, steady, and purposeful. You imagine drifting along the slopes, feeling the warmth of older lava cooled into stone, the imprint of past eruptions etched into the mountain. The volcano is both sculptor and storyteller, a monument to the patient rhythm of magma, pressure, and time. You sense the harmony in its creation, a balance of force and patience, shaping the landscape without hurry. Consider shield volcanoes, broad and gently sloping, formed by fluid lava flowing calmly over vast distances. You float above one, aware of the slow, deliberate growth, each layer adding to the mountain's form. Unlike the dramatic explosions of stratovolcanoes, these eruptions are gentle, meditative, a quiet reminder that creation does not always demand violence. Even fire within the earth can move with patience, shaping the world softly but profoundly. Now, imagine the process of pressure building within a volcano. Gases accumulate, magma rises, and the Earth's crust bends slightly under the weight. You sense this tension as a slow heartbeat, the patient preparation of energy that will eventually be released. The planet does not rush. It waits until conditions are right, teaching that even the most powerful forces operate with deliberation and care. Every eruption, no matter how dramatic, is the culmination of patience over millennia. Picture volcanic eruptions as a dialogue between earth and atmosphere. Lava spills, ash drifts, and gases rise, shaping landscapes and influencing climates. You float among these events, aware that each eruption is both destruction and creation. Valleys are carved, new land is formed, and ecosystems are subtly transformed. The rhythm of fire within the stone is patient, continuous, and integral to the cycle of planetary life. Imagine a caldera, a massive depression formed when the roof of a magma chamber collapses. You drift above it, sensing the scale of time involved. The centuries of pressure, accumulation, and eruption that created this enormous feature. Even in collapse, the process is meditative, a slow adjustment of the Earth's crust, a reshaping of the surface with patience and deliberation. You feel the quiet power in this hidden force. An ongoing story written in rock and fire. Consider the volcanic islands of the Pacific, like Hawaii, formed over hotspots. You imagine magma rising from deep within the mantle, piercing the crust, and gradually forming islands that will persist for millions of years. You drift above these formations, aware of the patient rhythm of creation. One eruption, one layer of lava, one century at a time. Life eventually follows, adapting to these new landscapes, shaped by fire and stone. Visualize the gases escaping during eruptions: steam, carbon dioxide, sulfur. They drift into the atmosphere, influencing weather, climate, and ecosystems. You sense the interconnectedness of this process, the gentle yet profound influence of volcanoes on life above the surface. Even in their hidden chambers, volcanoes communicate with the wider world, demonstrating that patient force can resonate far beyond its immediate location. Now, imagine the slow solidification of lava flows. Molten rock cools into basalt and obsidian, forming the foundation for future landscapes. You drift over these flows, feeling the patience inherent in the transformation from fluid to solid, heat to rock, chaos to structure. Each layer records the history of eruption, the memory of fire contained within stone. The volcano is both artist and archivist, shaping land while preserving the record of its own creation. Picture pyroclastic flows racing down slopes during dramatic eruptions. You observe them from a safe distance, aware of their speed and intensity, yet also sensing that even these forces are part of a larger rhythm. They disperse, settle, and form layers over time, contributing to the patient building of mountains. Even the most violent expressions of fire within the earth are part of a meditative, ongoing process that shapes landscapes with care and continuity. Imagine lava tubes forming as flows cool on the surface while molten rock continues beneath. These hidden passageways are sculpted slowly, a network of tunnels that carry both heat and history. You float inside them, sensing the quiet movement of magma that once traveled here, shaping stone with deliberate patience. The Earth's fire works in secret, creating both visible and hidden features, a reminder that much of creation happens beyond immediate perception. Now, consider the relationship between volcanic activity and tectonic motion. Subduction zones, rift valleys, and hotspots guide the paths of magma. You drift along these areas, aware of the delicate choreography that shapes the Earth from below. Every eruption is synchronized with deeper forces, a meditation in timing, pressure, and patient orchestration. Volcanoes are not isolated. They are integral parts of the planet's ongoing rhythm. Visualize volcanic landscapes millions of years after eruptions. Erosion softens the slopes, rivers carve valleys, and vegetation gradually returns. You float above these areas, sensing the quiet transformation, the balance between fire and water, destruction and renewal. The story of volcanoes is ongoing, a patient dialogue between energy, rock, and life, unfolding slowly over time. Picture the formation of volcanic cones, cinder layers, and lava plateaus. Each eruption contributes a small piece, adding to the mountain's form over centuries. You drift among these layers, aware of the immense patience required to build such structures. The Earth teaches that creation is rarely immediate. It accumulates, layer by layer, patiently, persistently, and with intention, yet still alive with potential. You sense the magma beneath, the subtle heat, the pressure waiting for the right moment to release. Even in stillness, there is presence, a meditation in anticipation. The Earth does not hurry. It works on its own timescale, reminding you that even powerful forces can act with quiet deliberation. Now, consider the ecosystems that emerge around volcanoes. Soil enriched by volcanic ash nourishes plants, which in turn sustain animals. You drift above these habitats, sensing the patient creation that follows the fire, the slow healing and transformation of the land. Life is intertwined with the rhythms of volcanic activity, a testament to the gentle persistence of natural processes. Visualize volcanic islands slowly eroding into the ocean. Waves and wind shape the stone, yet new lava may continue to emerge, building again over millennia. You float above these islands, aware of the cycle of creation and renewal, the patient balance between growth and decay. The fire within the stone is both destructive and constructive, a meditation on the duality of forces shaping the Earth. Picture the vast networks of volcanoes along the ring of fire. Each peak, each fissure, each eruption is part of a larger, patient rhythm orchestrated by the motion of tectonic plates beneath. You drift along this chain, sensing the continuity, the persistent energy that shapes landscapes across thousands of miles. The Earth's fire is deliberate, patient, and meditative, a slow sculptor of continents and oceans alike. And as you float above these mountains of fire, drifting from active peaks to dormant cones, you feel the patience, persistence, and rhythm of creation. Every eruption, Every layer of lava, every ash deposit is part of a grand meditation, a dialogue between energy, rock, and time. The Earth's fire shapes the world quietly, deliberately, and in harmony with the slow movements you have witnessed in mountains, faults, and ocean floors. Close your eyes and imagine standing at the source of a river, high in a mountain valley. The water is clear and cold, trickling gently from melting snow and hidden springs. At first, it seems insignificant, a quiet thread weaving through stone and soil. Yet this tiny stream holds power far beyond its size. Over centuries and millennia, it will carve valleys, shape mountainsides, and transport sediment across continents. You sense the quiet patience of this movement, the gentle, unhurried rhythm that sculpts the earth over unimaginable spans of time. Picture the water flowing over rocks, bending around stones, and forming miniature rapids. Each drop contributes to erosion, gradually wearing away at the land. You drift alongside it, weightless, feeling the patience inherent in this process. Rivers do not hurry. They work slowly and steadily, a meditation in movement. Each curve, each bend, is part of a larger plan, shaping landscapes with a gentle, deliberate touch. Visualize the river meandering across a valley floor. Its path is not straight, but winding, a reflection of balance and adaptation. Water seeks the path of least resistance, carving through softer soil and circling around harder rock. You float above this meander, sensing the deliberate patience in each bend. Over centuries, these curves will shift, oxbow lakes may form, and sediment will accumulate in new locations, silently reshaping the landscape. Now, imagine a river cutting through a mountain range, forming a deep gorge. You feel the immense timescale required for this feat. Each layer of rock worn down incrementally, patiently, over millions of years. The river's persistence is matched only by the resistance of the stone. You sense the dialogue between water and rock, gentle yet unyielding, slow yet unstoppable. Each flow, each current, is part of an ongoing meditation in erosion and patience. Picture sediment carried by the river, tiny grains of sand, silt, and clay, each with its own history. Some particles have traveled from distant mountains, others from eroded valleys nearby. You drift alongside these sediments, imagining their journey. Each contributes to the formation of riverbanks, deltas, and floodplains. Even the smallest grains play a role in the patient artistry of the river, shaping landscapes with unassuming diligence. Consider waterfalls, dramatic yet gradual features formed where rivers encounter harder rock layers. You float beside one, feeling the spray and the slow, relentless flow of water over stone. Over centuries, the waterfall will migrate upstream, carving deep plunge pools and sculpting the cliff below. The movement is unhurried, deliberate, a quiet testament to the persistence of flowing water. Imagine rivers interacting with tectonic motion. As mountains rise, rivers adjust their courses, cutting through new rock, forming valleys, and maintaining their rhythm. You sense the patient negotiation between uplift. Each river embodies a quiet resilience, moving steadily, patiently shaping the world despite obstacles. Visualize river deltas forming at the mouths of great rivers, where sediment meets the sea. Layers accumulate gradually, creating rich habitats for plants, birds, and fish. You drift above these intricate networks of channels and islands, sensing the meditative patience in each deposition. Rivers connect mountains to oceans, highlands to lowlands, carrying stories of erosion, uplift, and the long journey of water through the planet. Picture floodplains, flat areas that rivers gently reshape over time. During floods, water spreads across these plains, depositing sediment that nourishes soil and sustains life. You float above these events, aware that even occasional surges are part of the patient rhythm of rivers. They balance destruction and renewal, shaping landscapes with a calm, meditative grace. Consider the influence of rivers on human history. Valleys carved over millennia provide pathways for travel, fertile soil for agriculture, and sources of water for settlements. You sense the continuity of flow, how the patient movement of water has guided civilizations for thousands of years. Even as humans settle and build, the river's rhythm remains, quietly sculpting the world according to its own unhurried timetable. Picture a river widening as it approaches the plains. Its current slows and sediments settle gently, forming islands, sandbars, and meanders. You drift among these features, aware of the subtle shaping occurring beneath your gaze. Each grain of sediment, each drop of water, contributes to the slow, steady transformation of the land. The river's work is patient, methodical, and profoundly meditative. Imagine the interaction between groundwater and rivers. Water infiltrates soil, replenishes aquifers, and emerges again in springs. You sense the quiet circulation, the hidden contributions of water beneath the surface. Even in places where the river seems still, movement persists below, a patient sculpting of the earth that mirrors the flows you see above. Visualize braided rivers, intricate networks of channels that weave across broad valleys. You float above them, sensing the delicate balance between flow, sediment, and gravity. Each channel shifts over time, responding to changes in water volume and sediment load. The river's language is subtle, rhythmic, and continuous, a meditation in connection, adaptation, and slow transformation. Now, consider rivers carving canyons over millions of years. The depth, the curves, and the layers of rock exposed along the walls all tell stories of patient, relentless motion. You drift through these gorges, aware of the immense timescales involved, and feel the quiet persistence of flowing water. Even the mightiest stone eventually yields to patient, persistent shaping. Picture oxbow lakes forming when meanders are cut off from the main channel. You float above these isolated bodies of water, imagining the slow, graceful adjustments that created them. Sediments settle, ecosystems flourish, and the river continues its winding journey elsewhere. These quiet transformations remind you that change is continuous, gentle, and deeply patient. Imagine rivers connecting mountains, valleys, and seas. They act as threads in a vast tapestry, guiding sediments, shaping landforms, and sustaining life along their paths. You drift along a major river, sensing the patient guidance of water. A sculptor moving steadily, quietly, shaping the world over millennia. The rhythm of flow is meditative, constant, and unhurried. Visualize rivers responding to climate changes over millennia. Glacial melt increases flow, drought slows it, yet the river persists, adjusting its path with grace and patience. You sense the dialogue between water, land, and climate, an ongoing meditation in adaptation and persistence. The river teaches that even amidst change, continuity endures. Now, picture the river delta merging with the ocean. Fresh water meets salt water, sediments settle, and habitats flourish. You drift above the estuary, aware that this patient sculpting connects continents to oceans, mountains to seas. Rivers are storytellers, carrying the history of erosion, tectonics, and life, quietly shaping the planet in ways both visible and hidden. Consider the sound of flowing water as a rhythm of time. Each ripple, each current, each subtle wave reflects patient motion, a meditation in sound. You feel the gentle pulse of the river, synchronized with the slow heartbeat of mountains, faults, and volcanoes you have observed before. The landscape is alive with quiet, deliberate motion. Visualize tributaries joining the main river, adding their waters and sediments to the journey. You float among these streams, aware of their subtle contribution to the ongoing shaping of the land. Even small channels carry power through time, demonstrating that patient effort, however subtle, accumulates into profound transformation. And as you drift along the river's winding path, from mountain source to delta, you feel the persistent rhythm of water shaping earth. Each sediment deposit, each erosion scar, is part of a long meditation, a patient dialogue between water and stone, flow and resistance, time and persistence. Close your eyes and imagine standing at the edge of a vast glacier, the air crisp, the silence profound. The ice stretches far beyond the horizon, pale and blue, moving slowly, almost imperceptibly. At first, it seems still, frozen in time, yet beneath your feet, it flows with patience and deliberation. This movement, invisible to a human lifetime, shapes mountains, valleys, and plains with relentless grace. You sense the glacier's quiet power, the weight of ice pressing against stone, and the subtle rhythm that has persisted for thousands, even millions, of years. Visualize the glacier's surface, crevasses open like deep wrinkles, their edges gleaming in sunlight. Snow accumulates, compresses, and transforms into ice. You drift alongside these flowing rivers of ice, aware that each inch of movement represents centuries of pressure, weight, and time. The glacier does not hurry. It moves in a meditative cadence, slowly but surely, sculpting the land beneath. Each fold, each crack, each polished surface is a testament to the patient artistry of frozen water. Imagine the glacier advancing down a mountain valley. Rocks embedded in the ice scrape and grind against the bedrock below. Valleys deepen, cliffs smooth, and landscapes are transformed imperceptibly. You float above this scene, sensing the dialogue between ice and stone. The glacier is both artist and patient sculptor, a slow-moving force that balances immense weight with delicate, deliberate motion. Even the mightiest peaks are gradually softened under its persistent hand. Consider how glaciers carry debris, stones, soil, and sand trapped within the ice. You imagine these sediments moving in silence, abrading surfaces and forming moraines at the glacier's edges. Each particle contributes to the slow, meditative reshaping of the land. The glacier's work is subtle, continuous, and profound, a quiet reminder that transformation often occurs far beyond immediate perception. Visualize glacial valleys, U-shaped and wide, carved over countless generations. Rivers may flow through them now, but they follow paths traced by ice over millennia. You drift along these valleys, feeling the immense patience embedded in their formation. Even in apparent stillness, the glacier's past motion is recorded in the landscape, a meditative imprint of persistence and endurance. Now, picture the melting edge of a glacier where ice meets warmer air and water. Meltwater forms streams that carve channels, transport sediments, and feed rivers. You float alongside this flow, sensing the continuity between ice and water. The glacier's influence extends far beyond its frozen form, shaping not only valleys and mountains, but also the life that depends on the waters it releases. Imagine towering ice cliffs, their surfaces glowing blue in sunlight. You drift past, aware of the slow calving of icebergs into lakes or the sea. Even this dramatic action is part of a patient cycle: accumulation, compression, movement, and release. The glacier moves with deliberation, each calving a quiet punctuation in the ongoing story of Earth's sculpting forces. Consider the deep, internal motion of glaciers. Beneath the surface, ice deforms plastically, flowing like a thick, slow-moving river. You sense the hidden energy, the pressure accumulated over centuries, shaping the ice from within. Even where the surface appears static, the glacier is alive, responding to gravity, terrain, and internal stress in a meditative, patient rhythm. Visualize a glacier carving cirques bowl-shaped depressions at the head of a valley. You drift among these features, sensing the patient accumulation of ice and the grinding power of frozen water against rock. The cirques record the glacier's slow motion, a meditative dialogue between pressure and resistance, persistence and transformation. You feel the quiet patience in each groove, each polished surface, each ridge sculpted over eons. Now, imagine the glacier's influence on climate. Reflective ice cools the surrounding air, stores fresh water, and subtly shapes ecosystems. You sense the interconnectedness of frozen landscapes and living organisms. The glacier moves slowly, deliberately, sustaining both geological features and life. A meditation on balance and continuity. Picture glacial moraines, ridges of debris left behind as ice retreats. You drift over them, sensing the patient layering of rock, sand, and silt. Each ridge, each mound, is a record of motion, a slow accumulation of time and energy. The glacier teaches that change can be gradual, cumulative, and gentle, yet profoundly transformative over long durations. Consider glacial fjords, where ice-carved valleys meet the ocean. You float above, observing the steep cliffs and deep waters formed by centuries of patient motion. The interplay between ice, rock, and water demonstrates the glacier's meditative sculpting, a slow choreography that continues long after the ice retreats. You feel the rhythm of creation, subtle but enduring, like a heartbeat of stone and ice. Visualize subglacial rivers, hidden beneath the thick ice. They flow silently, lubricating the glacier's base and transporting sediments. You drift along these concealed currents, aware of the quiet work happening beneath the visible surface. Even when hidden glaciers are active sculptors, shaping the land with patience and precision, a gentle force that reveals itself over millennia. Imagine a glacier retreating as climate warms. The ice melts slowly, leaving behind valleys, lakes, and moraines. You sense the delicate balance between advance and retreat, the glacier's rhythm responding to both internal pressure and external conditions. The process is deliberate, measured, and meditative, a reminder that even great forces yield to subtle influences over time. Picture the glaciers of Antarctica or Greenland, vast and almost infinite in scale. You drift above them, feeling the weight of ice, the continuity of movement, and the patient shaping of the land beneath. The surface appears static from a human perspective, yet glaciers flow inexorably, shaping mountains, valleys, and plains in a rhythm beyond human comprehension. You sense the grandeur of time embedded in ice, a slow, meditative artistry that endures. Now, consider the ecosystems that emerge around glaciers. Alpine plants cling to rocky slopes, animals adapt to extreme conditions, and rivers born of melting ice sustain life downstream. You drift above these landscapes, aware of the patient influence of glaciers on the world, shaping not only stone, but life itself. Their rhythm is slow, yet its impact resonates widely. Visualize glacial striations, the scratches and grooves left on bedrock by moving ice. You drift along these markings, feeling the slow, deliberate movement of ice over stone. Each groove is a record of pressure, direction, and persistence, subtle language written in rock, telling a story of patience and endurance. You sense the continuity of action, the glacier's quiet dialogue with the earth. Imagine glacial lakes, formed when ice blocks, valleys, or depressions fill with meltwater. You float above these waters, aware of the glacier's patient shaping, both constructing and retreating over centuries. Life finds its way into these new habitats, nurtured by the rhythm of ice and water. A meditation in patience, creation, and transformation. Consider glaciers' role in shaping continents. Massive ice sheets carve landscapes, redistribute sediments, and sculpt coastlines. You drift above entire regions, sensing the slow, deliberate artistry of these frozen sculptors. Their impact is subtle in human time, but monumental in geological terms, teaching that persistent, patient forces shape the earth more profoundly than sudden events. Picture the glacier's journey from accumulation to ablation, from slow advance to retreat. You drift along this continuum, sensing the delicate balance of input and output, creation and dissolution. The glacier's rhythm is meditative, a lesson in patience and adaptation, showing that transformation occurs gradually, layer by layer, over spans that exceed comprehension. And as you rise above these patient ice rivers, drifting from summit to valley, you feel the continuity of motion, the persistence of shaping forces, and the slow artistry of frozen water. Each crevasse, moraine, and polished cliff is a testament to patience, resilience, and deliberate, meditative motion. You sense the quiet dialogue between ice and stone, a rhythm as old as the mountains themselves, yet still ongoing. Close your eyes and imagine standing at the edge of a vast sea, the horizon stretching endlessly before you. The water laps gently at the shore, a soft, rhythmic pulse. At first, the ocean appears still, tranquil, almost meditative. Yet beneath the surface, immense forces are at work. Tides rise and fall. Currents flow across continents, and waves shape coastlines. You sense the depth of motion, the patient, ceaseless rhythm that moves oceans across the globe, quietly shaping the planet with each ebb and flow. Visualize the tides, orchestrated by the pull of the moon and the sun. You drift along the shoreline, feeling the gentle rise and fall of water, a slow, deliberate breathing of the earth. The ocean responds to celestial rhythms, creating a constant, patient dance that moves water, sediment, and life alike. Even the smallest ripple is part of a larger cadence, a meditation in motion, repeated faithfully day after day, century after century. Picture ocean currents, like the Gulf Stream, transporting heat across vast distances. Warm water flows from the tropics toward the poles, while cold water travels back toward the equator. You float above these currents, sensing their immense power and persistence. They carry energy, nutrients, and life across the globe, a quiet, patient choreography connecting distant regions. The oceans are both sculptor and conveyor, shaping climate, coastlines, and ecosystems through slow, deliberate motion. Imagine waves breaking gently on a sandy beach. You drift with them, feeling the ebb and flow of water over your feet. Each wave is a sculptor, eroding stone, shifting sand, and creating new shapes along the shore. Over years and decades, these small, repetitive actions carve cliffs, build dunes, and reshape coastlines. You sense the patience in each ripple, the steady artistry of movement, a quiet reminder that persistent effort, however subtle, brings transformation over time. Now, consider the deep ocean, where water moves in slow, layered currents. You drift through the abyss, aware of the immense pressure, the darkness, and the patient, unhurried motion. Nutrients travel in a slow cycle, supporting life far below the surface. Even in this seemingly motionless realm, change occurs steadily, quietly, and persistently. A meditation in balance and endurance. Visualize the waves formed by wind across the ocean surface. Each gust transfers energy to the water, creating a rhythm that carries across miles. You float above these rippling surfaces, sensing the patience and persistence in each swell. Waves may seem temporary, but collectively they shape coastlines, redistribute sediments, and influence life in a continuous, deliberate pattern. The ocean teaches that even small, repeated actions can sculpt the world over time. Picture tides shaping estuaries and bays. Saltwater and freshwater mix, creating unique habitats that sustain countless species. You drift along these areas, aware of the patient work of water, ebbing and flowing, depositing sediments, nourishing ecosystems. The rhythm of tides mirrors the patient sculpting observed in rivers, glaciers, and faults. Water continues its quiet shaping, always in motion, always persistent. Imagine the interplay between ocean currents and climate. Warm currents bring energy to distant lands, moderating temperatures and sustaining life. Cold currents carry nutrients that feed the rich ecosystems of the deep. You drift above these flows, sensing the slow, deliberate connectivity of the oceans. They are patient, persistent sculptors, moving energy, life, and water across the globe in an unhurried, meditative rhythm. Visualize the formation of coastal features by waves and tides. Cliffs, coves, and sandy beaches are sculpted slowly over centuries, shaped by persistent action. You drift along a coastline, observing the interplay between erosion and deposition. Each wave carries sand, each tide rearranges sediments, each season contributes to the patient artistry of the ocean. The rhythm is meditative, a quiet reflection of the Earth's ceaseless motion. Now, consider the motion of deep-sea currents, like the thermaline circulation. Cold, dense water sinks near the poles and slowly travels across the ocean floor, returning centuries later to the surface. You drift with this immense flow, aware of its patient, unhurried pace. Even the deepest, most hidden waters are moving, sculpting the seafloor, distributing heat and sustaining life, all in a slow, deliberate, meditative rhythm. Picture marine sediment accumulating on the ocean floor. Fine particles drift down from rivers, eroded cliffs, and dead organisms, layer by layer. You float above these sediments, sensing the patient accumulation over thousands of years. The ocean is a quiet archivist, recording time in layers of sand, silt, and organic matter. Each deposit adds to the ongoing story, a slow, meditative chronicle of Earth's history. Imagine underwater canyons carved by persistent currents. You drift along steep walls, observing the grooves, terraces, and channels etched over millennia. Even in the hidden depths, water shapes landscapes patiently, persistently, with deliberate care. The rhythm of motion is constant, teaching that transformation often occurs far beyond immediate perception, gradually accumulating to create profound change. Visualize coral reefs forming over centuries. Tiny polyps deposit calcium carbonate, creating intricate structures that provide habitat for countless species. You drift above these reefs, aware of the patient rhythm of growth, layer by layer, generation by generation. The ocean's sculpting extends beyond stone and sand, shaping ecosystems with quiet, deliberate care, sustaining life through continuous, unhurried effort. Now, picture the tides interacting with estuaries, mangroves, and wetlands. Water moves slowly but persistently, transporting nutrients, shaping sediment, and creating habitats. You float above these regions, sensing the patient collaboration between land and sea. The ocean's rhythm is intertwined with that of rivers, glaciers, and winds, forming a vast, interconnected network of slow, deliberate motion. Consider waves eroding cliffs and forming sea stacks. Over centuries, stone wears away, leaving isolated towers and arches. You drift along this shoreline, aware of the patient artistry at work. The ocean balances destruction and creation, persistence and change, teaching that even relentless forces operate with subtlety, patience, and rhythm. Visualize ocean juniors, vast circular currents that transport water, heat, and nutrients across thousands of miles. You drift within one, sensing the immensity of its scale and the patient continuity of its motion. It moves slowly but steadily, connecting distant coasts, sustaining marine life. The rhythm is profound, meditative, and continuous, a quiet testament to the power of patient motion. Imagine the gentle rise and fall of tides within a quiet bay. You drift among floating kelp, sensing the slow, deliberate movement of water, the patient shaping of sands, and the nurturing of life. Even in such calm waters, the rhythm is unbroken, a meditation in flow, connection, and continuity. Each motion contributes to the shaping of landscapes and ecosystems over time. Picture the ocean's role in transporting heat from equator to poles, shaping climates and currents. You drift along these flows, aware of the immense patience involved in distributing energy and sustaining global balance. Water acts as a sculptor of both land and climate, shaping coastlines and continents with gentle, persistent motion. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, and profoundly meditative. Now consider the cycles of evaporation and precipitation. Water rises from the ocean, forms clouds, and returns as rain or snow, feeding rivers, lakes, and glaciers. You float above this cycle, sensing the continuity of motion, the patient rhythm connecting oceans to land, mountains to plains. The ocean's sculpting power extends far beyond its boundaries, influencing every corner of the planet through a slow, meditative network of flow. And as you drift across the restless vastness of the seas, from surface waves to deep currents, from tides to gyres, you feel the continuous, patient motion shaping coastlines, transporting heat and sustaining life. Each ripple, each swell, each current is part of a grand, ongoing meditation of water and motion, a rhythm as old as the earth itself, guiding the landscapes you have already witnessed through mountains, rivers, and glaciers. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a quiet hilltop, the world stretching endlessly before you. You feel the subtle passage of time in every aspect of the landscape, the gentle curves of a river, the polished face of a mountain, the dunes shifting under unseen wind. Time is everywhere, unseen yet persistent, weaving its influence through every force you have witnessed. Its motion is quiet, unhurried, and meditative, shaping the world in a rhythm beyond comprehension. Visualize rivers carving valleys, one gentle current at a time. Each flow seems small, almost inconsequential in a single moment. Yet, over decades and centuries, these patient sculptors shape entire landscapes. You sense the invisible hand of time guiding this process, connecting the river's motion to glaciers, melting far above, two oceans receiving water at their vast mouths. Time is the quiet mediator, linking these forces in a continuous, unbroken dance. Imagine glaciers moving with deliberate slowness, advancing and retreating, leaving behind valleys, lakes, and polished cliffs. You drift above these ancient rivers of ice, feeling the immense patience required to carve entire mountain ranges. Each crevasse, each moraine, each ripple in the ice is a record of centuries and millennia, patiently inscribed by the passage of time. You sense that time itself is the sculptor's rhythm, coordinating ice and rock in a slow, meditative dialogue. Picture the wind across deserts and mountains, invisible yet persistent. Sand shifts, stones are polished, seeds carried to distant lands. You feel the quiet continuity of air's influence, aware that time amplifies these subtle actions into profound change. Time acts like a patient composer, orchestrating the movement of invisible currents, ensuring that even the smallest gestures leave enduring marks on Earth's surface. Now, visualize oceans, their vast currents, moving heat, nutrients, and energy across the globe. Waves shape coastlines, tides rise and fall, and deep-sea currents travel for centuries. You float along these flows, sensing the persistence of motion. Time is present in every ripple, every swell, and every deep flow, integrating the influence of water into the broader symphony of change. The oceans do not act alone. They are guided, framed, and coordinated by the patient weaving of time. Consider mountains rising slowly, tectonic plates shifting imperceptibly beneath your feet. You feel the pulse of Earth beneath the crust, a rhythm measured in millennia. Time is the silent architect, balancing forces of uplift and erosion, wind and water, ice and gravity. Every peak, valley, and plateau carries the mark of this patient weaving. Even the mightiest stone is slowly transformed, a reminder that time is both sculptor and witness to all natural processes. Imagine a seed carried by the wind, landing in fertile soil, growing into a tree, and eventually decaying to nourish new life. You drift alongside it, sensing how time transforms the smallest events into cycles that sustain entire ecosystems. The rhythm of growth, decay, and renewal mirrors the patient motion of rivers, glaciers, winds, and oceans. Time is the connective tissue linking events across scales. From the smallest leaf to the tallest mountain, visualize stars in the night sky, their light traveling across vast distances to reach your eyes. You feel the immense scale of time in each photon, the patient journey that began long before your birth. Celestial time mirrors Earth's own patient rhythms, reminding you that all processes, from cosmic to terrestrial, are linked in a slow, meditative pattern of cause and effect. Time enfolds all scales, from microscopic to planetary, from seconds to eons. Picture sediment accumulating in river deltas, layer upon layer over centuries. You float above these deposits, aware of the slow, deliberate work of water, guided by time. Each layer records a story: floods, droughts, seasonal changes, and the passage of millennia. You sense that time does not rush. It allows events to unfold naturally, integrating each moment into the larger narrative of Earth's evolution. Now, consider coral reefs forming over centuries. Tiny polyps deposit calcium carbonate gradually, building intricate structures that support countless species. You drift above these reefs, sensing the patient weaving of time, integrating biological growth with ocean currents, sunlight, and nutrient flows. Time ensures that even the smallest actions accumulate into profound, lasting structures. Visualize glacial moraines left behind as ice retreats. You drift along these ridges, aware of the centuries of movement and deposition recorded in every stone. Time preserves the memory of these processes, a quiet archivist weaving the past into the present. Each moraine tells a story of patience, persistence, and transformation, echoing the rhythm of the glacier that created it. Imagine sand dunes shifting under persistent winds. Each grain moves imperceptibly, layer by layer, until the landscape is transformed. You float above this scene, sensing how time magnifies the wind's invisible work, converting gentle motion into sweeping changes. Time is the patient weaver, allowing slow forces to accumulate and create patterns, both delicate. Consider ocean currents distributing heat and nutrients, influencing climate and life across continents. You drift along these vast flows, feeling the slow, deliberate coordination of motion. Time links the influence of the oceans with rivers, glaciers, and winds, creating a synchronized network of forces shaping Earth. Even invisible threads of cause and effect are woven together patiently, ensuring balance and continuity. Picture a forest growing over centuries. Trees mature, fall, and decay, enriching the soil for future generations. You drift among these ancient trees, sensing how time orchestrates the cycles of life, death, and renewal. Its rhythm is subtle, persistent, and meditative, guiding ecosystems through delicate, interconnected balances. Time teaches that even the smallest life events contribute to the broader tapestry of existence. Now, visualize the night sky slowly, rotating stars shifting imperceptibly, constellations evolving over millennia. You sense the continuity of time in every celestial motion, mirrored in the movements of Earth's surface. Rivers, glaciers, winds, and oceans follow their patterns, synchronized with the larger rhythm of planetary and cosmic time. All forces are integrated, patient threads in a vast, ongoing weave. Imagine human history unfolding along these natural rhythms. Civilizations rise and fall, cities grow and decay, yet rivers continue to flow. Glaciers continue to move, winds continue to blow, and oceans continue to shape coastlines. You sense the humility of human life within this patient framework. Time is the silent witness, weaving together geology, climate, biology, and human existence in a seamless, meditative tapestry. Visualize the quiet erosion of cliffs by waves, the slow accumulation of sediments in rivers, and the patient shaping of landscapes by glaciers. You drift above mountains, rivers, deserts, and oceans, aware that time connects these forces into a continuous, unbroken pattern. Each event, no matter how small, is part of a larger meditation of change, persistence, and enduring transformation. And as you rise above the earth, observing the rivers, glaciers, winds, and oceans below, you feel the patient hand of time weaving them together. Each movement, each transformation, each quiet shaping is connected in a rhythm that transcends human perception. Time is the master sculptor, the quiet architect, the patient weaver of change, integrating all forces into a harmonious, meditative flow. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a wide, open plain. The air moves gently around you, a whisper of unseen energy brushing against your skin. At first, it feels delicate, almost inconsequential, yet you sense its persistence, its quiet ability to shape the world over time. The wind, invisible and patient, sculpts landscapes, moves clouds, and carries seeds, dust, and whispers of change across continents. You feel the rhythm in the currents, a meditative pulse, subtle yet unending. Visualize desert dunes, sand lifted and carried in slow, graceful arcs. Each grain moves inch by inch, layer by layer, until mountains of sand rise and shift across the landscape. You drift above these dunes, sensing the quiet patience required to shape such vast forms. Wind sculpts the earth slowly, deliberately, a hidden artist whose work unfolds over decades and centuries. Every ridge, every slope, every curve of the dune is testimony to time, persistence, and invisible power. Picture wind carving stone in arid canyons. Tiny particles lifted by gusts act as sandpaper, slowly wearing down rock surfaces. You float along these sculpted cliffs, aware that the patient work of wind, though subtle in a single moment, accumulates over millennia. grooves, arches, and polished faces emerge from this quiet persistence. The wind's artistry is unhurried, deliberate, and deeply meditative, a sculptor invisible to the eye, yet undeniably present in the forms it shapes. Now, imagine the formation of coastal cliffs and beaches. Waves shaped the shoreline, but wind carries sand inland, sculpting dunes and reshaping landscapes. You drift above this meeting of water and air, sensing the dialogue between ocean and atmosphere. The wind works patiently, moving materials, shaping forms, and nurturing life in its quiet, persistent rhythm. Its motion is continuous, subtle, and deeply connected to other forces you have witnessed: rivers, glaciers, and oceans. Visualize the forests responding to persistent winds. Trees bend, branches sway, and seeds are carried to distant lands. You drift above the treetops, aware of the patient influence of air. Winds distribute life, shape ecosystems, and guide growth over time. Each gust is gentle, yet each contributes to long-term transformation. The invisible currents are teachers, demonstrating that subtle persistence can shape both stone and life alike. Consider mountain passes and high ridges, where wind gathers strength. Air accelerates through narrow valleys, carrying rock dust and seeds across great distances. You float along these high corridors, sensing the increased energy and the patient shaping that occurs here. Wind molds the surfaces of mountains, removes soil, and sculpts peaks with deliberate care. Its rhythm mirrors the slow, persistent work of rivers and glaciers. Another layer in Earth's meditative process of shaping landscapes. Imagine the wind blowing across flat plains, lifting dust and forming dust storms. You drift among the swirling particles, aware of the slow redistribution of sediments over years. Soil moves, dunes shift, and life adapts to these subtle changes. Even in apparent chaos, wind works patiently, its invisible hand guiding the landscape with rhythm, persistence, and quiet artistry. Picture the wind influencing weather patterns and climates. Warm and cold air collide, rising and sinking in slow, deliberate flows. You sense the vast, patient scale of this movement, shaping clouds, rainfall, and temperature across continents. The invisible currents connect the planet, guiding oceans, rivers, and glaciers in a delicate, meditative choreography. Every breeze, every gust, every storm is part of this ongoing dialogue of forces, shaping life and landscapes alike. Now, visualize the wind's role in desert ecosystems. Sand dunes shift, seeds are carried, and life finds niches in the constantly changing terrain. You drift among these deserts, aware of the patient rhythm embedded in the movement of air. The wind teaches balance and adaptation, showing that even invisible forces can produce profound and lasting change. Its work is slow, steady, and purposeful, shaping both stone and life with meditative care. Consider the creation of rock formations like arches and spires, carved over millennia by persistent winds. You float among these sculpted shapes, sensing the patient rhythm that crafted each curve and hollow. Wind is a silent artist, invisible yet deliberate, shaping landscapes in harmony with the forces of water, ice, and gravity. Every hollow, every polished surface, every erosion pattern is a testament to persistent motion, quiet patience, and subtle force, Picture the wind interacting with rivers and glaciers. Air lifts moisture, distributes sediments, and moves particles that glaciers or rivers deposit elsewhere. You drift above this interaction, aware of the invisible connections and patient choreography of Earth's sculpting forces. Wind does not act alone. It complements water and ice, creating a slow, meditative network of shaping forces across the planet. Imagine the wind sculpting snow in polar regions, snowdrifts forming ridges and patterns, while glaciers slowly move beneath. You float above these icy plains, sensing the patient influence of air in combination with frozen water. Even in extreme cold, wind continues its subtle work, moving particles, redistributing energy, and shaping the frozen landscape over centuries. Its rhythm is quiet, persistent, and meditative. Visualize the wind shaping volcanic ash after eruptions. Fine particles are carried across continents, fertilizing soils, creating layers, and influencing ecosystems. You drift above these ash clouds, aware of the patient, far-reaching work of air. Wind connects distant places, transferring the Earth's energy and matter. A subtle, invisible sculptor with profound influence over time. Now, consider the wind's role in creating and guiding deserts. Sand accumulates in dunes, plains erode, and canyons form. You drift across these arid landscapes, sensing the patient, deliberate rhythm of air. The wind moves quietly, shaping stone and sand alike, demonstrating that even invisible forces can create lasting, profound transformations. Its artistry is subtle, continuous, and meditative. Picture wind-driven waves on lakes and seas. Air pushes the water, forming ripples, currents, and patterns. You float above these surfaces, sensing the interconnected dance of wind and water. Each movement contributes to shaping coastlines, distributing sediments, and influencing ecosystems. The rhythm of air mirrors the motion of oceans, rivers, and glaciers, reinforcing the patient, meditative cadence of natural forces. Visualize tornadoes or hurricanes, powerful expressions of wind. Even in their intensity, they are temporary fluctuations within larger, patient patterns. You drift above, aware of the energy released, yet also of the rhythm and persistence of the wind before and after the storm. Nature's sculptor works with both subtlety and strength, balancing chaos and calm in a slow, ongoing meditation. Imagine the wind carrying pollen, spores, and seeds, connecting distant ecosystems. Life travels invisibly, carried patiently by currents of air. You drift with these tiny travelers, sensing the quiet, persistent influence of wind on evolution, growth, and adaptation. Its sculpting power extends beyond stone and sand, shaping life itself with patient, meditative motion. Now, consider the interaction of wind with human landscapes. It shapes dunes, erodes cliffs, moves clouds of dust, and cools settlements. You drift above, aware that the patient rhythm of air affects both natural and human-altered environments. Wind is a teacher of subtle persistence, showing that transformation occurs gradually, often imperceptibly, yet profoundly. And as you float above mountains, plains, and coasts, feeling the invisible currents of air brushing across your senses, you perceive the continuity of motion. Wind sculpts, shapes, and carries energy, moving in quiet, patient, and meditative rhythm. connecting landscapes, life, and climate in an invisible choreography that has persisted for eons. Close your eyes and place your hand gently on the ground. Feel the subtle vibration beneath you, the quiet pulse that stretches down through soil, rock, and molten layers deep below. This pulse is slow, measured, and unhurried, like the steady beat of a heartbeat that has been ongoing for billions of years. You feel connected to it, aware that beneath your feet, the planet itself is alive in motion, breathing and shifting in a rhythm almost imperceptible to the senses. Imagine the lithosphere, the Earth's outer shell, divided into enormous plates. These plates float atop the slowly moving asthenosphere, a layer of semi-fluid rock. You sense that these plates are not static. They drift, collide, pull apart, and slide past one another, moving at the rate your fingernails grow. Each shift is gentle yet persistent, subtle yet consequential. The mountains you see on the horizon, the valleys you walk through, the vast oceans stretching far beyond, all bear the mark of this quiet movement. Visualize standing at the edge of a vast valley. The rocks beneath your feet are not simply stone. They are time itself made tangible. Millions of years of pressure, heat, and motion have shaped them into the formations you now touch. The earth has been patient, sculpting these rocks with invisible hands, folding them, fracturing them, lifting them slowly upward. You feel the enormity of time, the kind that does not hurry but persists, quietly shaping the world. Picture a deep ocean trench, stretching like a scar across the seabed. One tectonic plate slowly slides beneath another, a process called subduction. You sense the immense, invisible pressure, the silent compression that bends and folds rock over millennia. This process is invisible to most eyes, yet it leaves a permanent mark on the planet. Trenches, volcanic arcs, and chains of islands. You float within this motion, weightless and aware, witnessing the delicate balance of forces that sustained life above and below the waves. Now, imagine standing on a mountain peak. That stone beneath your feet was not always high in the sky. Millions of years ago, it was once deep beneath the Earth's surface, forged under intense pressure and heat. Over eons, plates collided and pushed upward, raising the terrain slowly, steadily, silently. You feel the weight of patience in these movements, understanding that the grandeur of mountains is not sudden but the result of countless gentle nudges. Invisible yet persistent. Notice the tiny tremors, the micro-earthquakes that ripple silently through the crust. These are subtle conversations between plates, the earth communicating its adjustments in imperceptible pulses. You sense the rhythm of release and accumulation, a slow, meditative dialogue that prevents sudden catastrophe by allowing tension to shift gradually over time. Even the smallest quake is part of the Earth's breathing, a moment in a much larger, timeless rhythm. Think of the ocean floors, stretching and spreading like a slowly unrolling carpet. Along mid-ocean ridges, new crust forms as molten rock rises from the mantle, cools, and solidifies. You imagine the delicate dance of magma rising and solidifying, expanding the ocean floor with a calm precision that has continued for millions of years. The earth grows, layer by layer, fold by fold, without hurry, each new movement building upon the last, shaping the rhythm of the planet. Consider the convergence zones, where continents drift toward each other. Plates collide, compressing layers of rock, forcing them upward, and gradually raising mountain ranges. You feel the patient, almost meditative force in this collision. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, they did not appear overnight. They are the expression of an enduring, quiet energy, a testament to the Earth's ability to move and change slowly yet persistently. You float in understanding, aware that patience can build the tallest peaks now. Imagine the Earth's mantle beneath you. Though solid, it flows like a viscous liquid over millions of years. You sense that beneath your feet, the planet is pliable, accommodating the motion of tectonic plates with quiet efficiency. This slow, creeping motion shapes the continents and oceans, distributes heat from the core, and allows the surface to breathe. You are aware that the Earth is never truly still, that beneath the seeming permanence of rock lies a gentle, continuous motion that sustains life above. Picture volcanoes, born of the tension between plates. Beneath them, molten rock gathers, waiting patiently for the right moment to surface. You feel the subtle buildup of pressure, the deliberate preparation over thousands or millions of years, a silent meditation of heat and force. When magma finally emerges, it shapes new landscapes, builds mountains, and alters the surface gently but decisively. Even destruction is patient, methodical, and harmonious with the planet's rhythm. Think of transform boundaries, where plates slide past one another. Friction builds, releasing energy in small tremors or larger earthquakes. You imagine the plates moving with slow, careful intention, maintaining a balance that keeps the crust in motion without tearing apart completely. You sense the interplay between tension and release, a rhythmic pulse that echoes the heartbeat of the Earth itself. Every movement is a note in the meditative song of creation, subtle yet essential. Now, consider that you are part of this rhythm. The ground beneath your feet, the mountains you climb, the oceans you touch, they are shaped by forces too slow for your human perception, yet too powerful to ignore. You feel the patient continuity of these motions, as if the Earth itself is guiding you to a deeper awareness of time, change, and endurance. The planet teaches patience, showing that the greatest transformations are rarely immediate, but arise from persistent, silent forces. Visualize sediment layers in a canyon, each one a page in the Earth's diary. Wind, water, and gravity deposit and erode material slowly, guided by tectonic motion beneath. You imagine tracing your fingers along these layers, feeling the accumulated history of movement and pressure. Each stratum tells a story of quiet transformation, of forces that act over millennia, shaping the surface with invisible hands. You are connected to these layers, a witness to the patient artistry of the planet. Picture yourself at the edge of a rift valley where plates slowly diverge. Magma rises, forming new crust, while the land stretches and sinks gently. You sense the calm persistence of this widening, the silent breathing of the planet as it expands, contracts, and adjusts. You float along this rhythm, weightless and attuned, aware that the Earth's movements are deliberate and continuous, shaping landscapes with slow, unwavering patience. Consider the cyclical nature of plate movement. Subduction, collision, spreading, and sliding repeat endlessly, a slow, meditative loop. Mountains rise and erode, oceans open and close, and the surface of the planet is continually renewed. You feel the gentle reassurance of this repetition, aware that even the most powerful forces operate within a rhythm that is patient, predictable, and deeply calming. Notice the interplay of gravity with tectonic motion. Mountains push down on the crust, crust slides over mantle, and the planet adjusts to maintain balance. You sense the harmony in these movements, a quiet orchestration that sustains continents, oceans, and the very air you breathe. Every motion is connected, each movement echoing through millennia, shaping the earth in ways both subtle and magnificent. Now, imagine the earth's pulse continuing far into the future. You feel the slow rise of future mountains, the gradual opening of new oceans, and the persistent shifting of plates. Time stretches, and the earth's rhythm continues, undisturbed, a meditation in motion. You sense that patience is a force of creation itself, and that the silent heartbeat beneath your feet carries the power to shape worlds. And as you rise above mountains and oceans, observing the planet's slow, graceful movements, you feel a connection to every rock, every ridge, every valley. You are part of this quiet pulse, a witness to the patient, deliberate artistry of Earth. Every moment is part of an ongoing meditation, a rhythm that stretches across time, guiding the formation of peaks, the carving of valleys, and the subtle, eternal dance of tectonic motion.